Well, hello again, how you all doing? It's this is a video I've been meaning to do for a while. Many of you will, well, not many, because there's not that many of you that watch me, but many of you that do watch me may have been waiting for me to make this one, and it's only in Carroll. And his ties to the intel world. Now, I had high hopes for the guy, I really did at one point. Even though he talked about Israel a lot, yeah, rather disingenuously, quite often, I found. He did, on a couple of occasions, actually talk about the Picer family. Actually found out who they were. And then all of a sudden got very quiet on that front and continued to push the anti-Israel agenda, the smokescreen as I call it, because that's what it is. Any serious researcher, anyone who actually believes themselves to be a researcher of any sort of legitimacy that isn't an intel-led operation or asset, will know full well that Israel is the smokescreen that covers up everything else, all the activities of the actual regime at the top. They're not the first and they won't be the last smokescreen either. This is a common occurrence, a common plan that they use all the time. The head of the snake are all European royal nobility and royal and noble bloodlines, or linked to the papacy in some way. None of them are Jewish. Even the Sassoons, who you could kind of call Jewish, aren't really Jewish either. They're remember when I talked about the line of Ishmael? That's where they're from. Their family bloodline are a descendant of the Sadducees and Pharisees from the times of Jesus. Edomite, Arab, not Jew. They were bundled in with all the Jews by the Romans, because the Romans saw Arabs and Jews as both the same type of people. They didn't really distinguish between the two. That's why they are the Jews who say they are Jews and aren't Jews. They're Arabs. They would birth Islam through that same bloodline. According to Muhammad, he was part of it. Whether that's true or not, it's a different matter. Depends whether you believe the Islamic world or not. The Carroll family, on the other hand, are a very old family. Jesuit. Heavily tied to the Jesuit order. I think it were John Carroll and I think it's Charles. Not to be confused with the guy who hangs around with with Sam Hyde, but he was a reverend, a Catholic priest that were actually heavily tied to the founding of the US. The US is founding as kind of integral links to the Jesuit order, along with Freemasonry and Christianity in general, really. But the Jesuits have had a heavy presence in the US, like they do everywhere else, since it started. So the Carroll family, like I said, have been very sort of important in that world. You know, like the Jesuits in both the US and the UK make up the vast majority of the intel services. I'd say 60-70% of the upper limits, the upper echelons of both US and UK intel are Jesuit trained, Jesuit taught. All went to Catholic school, Jesuit school. So, as a result, most families tied into intel, they're generational, generational intel families, basically multi-generations of that family have been involved in either the intel services or the Catholic clergy, and to some degree Mormons as well, because the Mormons are also tied very much in with the Jesuits as well. So all ties together, you see. Now, the reason why Ian Carroll is part of all this, and I know for a fact he is an intel asset, was from something he said during an interview on Joe Rogan. And he talked about his father, who was part of the anti-war movement before the hippie revolution. He was actually one of the leaders of that anti-war movement that came out of Laurel Canyon. Now, all of those leaders of that anti-war movement were all faith leaders. They were all either Catholic, Protestant or Mormon. All of them were plant CIA assets. And we know this because in 1973, 74, the CIA were actually in front of a committee, a Senate committee, having to detail their infiltration of not only the Catholic Church but also the Mormon Church or the Church of the Latter-day Saints, along with the evangelical movement, the then steadily growing evangelical movement in the US. Now, Ian Carroll said himself, his father was one of those leaders. In order to be one of those church leaders that were involved with that first initial anti-war movement before the hippie movement, he would have been a CIA asset. There's no question about it. There's no ifs, no buts. He can try and hide it all he wants, or try and backtrack all he wants, but he said it now. I'll leave a link to the document, the minutes from that meeting, from that Senate hearing committee, on the CIA's use of the clergy and journalism, where it details all of this. So this then effectively makes, now people will turn around and say, well, it was just his dad, so what, and I thought it was just a hippie movement, well, no, not really. No, they played both sides. You see, the one problem with using the clergy as to head their anti-war movement was because it was too effective. It was too effective. So in order to sort of dull it down and sort of split it down the middle, shall we say, the CIA does what it does best and play divide and conquer, or divide and rule, and set up the hippie movement as a counter to the anti-war movement, and to make them look far less, what's the word, attractive to the older generation in particular, but also to the less inclined to be manipulated like some of the youth of the day.
War movement, and also to see what they can get away with, they can do with.
I suspect
acid.
I mean, to me, the big question is that seems like the first, like for sure that's going on, right?
Yeah.
Is to co-opt the hippie. I mean, first the hippie movement probably was to co-opt the anti-war movement that was pretty buttoned up. Like,
Yes.
I suspect that LSD did not just escape the lab. I suspect they were like, quick, turn all these kids into crazy hippies. Like, try this out, try this out, try this out.
Really?
Yeah. So
Why do you
so
think
check this
that?
out. Have you read Strange Scenes Inside Laurel Canyon?
I started to read it. I have not finished it.
So I mean, even just
But
the
it's
first chapter, right?
nuts.
So if you take that book's premise, it's basically that before the hippie movement, there was a very powerful organized anti-war movement led by a bunch of Quakers, a bunch of black activists, a bunch of, like, my dad was one of them. And it was
a bunch of Quakers, a bunch of black activists, a bunch of, like, my dad was one of them. And it was
not this hippie fringe thing. It was a very powerful.
I probably sat there thinking, well, it's all lovely and all, Sam, but how does it prove that Ian Carroll is a CIA asset? It's still not explained. Well, you see, the thing is, the Carroll family it's a family business, essentially. Just like it is with all CIA and all intel. Those families, it's either, especially the upper echelons, it is either the clergy or the intelligence community that you end up joining. No ifs, no buts. Ian's rise to prominence was extremely quick, despite what he says. I don't care. You can have all the tech savvy you want, all the social media savviness you want, without that leg up that the intel services provide, you're never going to get anywhere on social media. It's as simple as that. Not a single person with a big following on YouTube or anywhere who calls himself a citizen journalist doesn't have ties to either intel or the Jesuits in some way, shape or form. Yeah, all of them do. I haven't found a single exception. And if they, even if they don't think that they do, they will do, because they push a narrative that is beneficial to the regime. Like I said, you can be part of the system without even realising you're part of the system. As long as the narrative fits in with what narrative they're trying to push, they will use you till the cows come home. Even more so if you've no actual clue that they're helping you. Because you're cheap. They don't have to pay you, do they? This is why Q became so popular. Because it helped the regime. They didn't set it up, by the way, Q. But they did like the benefits that the Q movement provided. And so they used it ad nauseum. Fed the main proponents, who were the people that were actually running it at that point. People like Praying Medic that's just suddenly turned back up again. He was behind it. Or part of the team that was behind it. Him, another guy called Pamphlet. Another guy who runs a channel called Magination, I think it is. David Wilcox is another one. David Wilcock even. What's it called? Journalist. Just ended up getting blackballed. Corsi, Jerome Corsi. All of them were behind the Q movement, and they're all getting fed information through Corsi's intel contacts. Everything about Ian Carroll and Candice Owens is tied so inescapably and inexorably to the intel agencies and to the Jesuits. It's unbelievable. I'm not saying all the information they give us is fake, because 95% truth, 10% lies. But when something like as big as the Charlie Kirk assassination happens, you have to start seriously questioning why they're pushing certain narratives when everyone else who usually talks the same way isn't. That should make you think. Right, I know you're probably thinking, hang on, haven't you just gone? But there's something I needed to add to the end of this video. Because I was thinking of making this a 3-part sort of thing, covering not just Candace Owens and Ian Carroll, but also looking at Erika Kirk. Because there's quite a bit that's strange surrounding her, shall we say. I'm not insinuating that she's got anything to do with his death. I'm just saying the background and things that have occurred since I've been looking into her have been a bit strange, suspicious, I suppose. I've been looking at her since Charlie died, since Charlie was assassinated, because I wanted to know more about him. And I stumbled across a free genealogy site where it basically gives you information on people's family trees for free, created by the actual people's family themselves. Obviously there's paid options that you can have, where it'll give you more detailed sort of diagrams, tree diagrams. But all in all, it's a pretty good site. Unlike Ancestry.com, where it tries to use you through the nose to actually sort of follow any sort of lead chain. This one allows you to do it. Now, on the 11th of September, the day after his assassination, when I looked through to Erika's great-grandmother, who was a woman by the name of Olga Eriksson. Eriksson had a very unusual spelling. In Sweden, Eriksson can be spelled a quite wide array of different ways, but one of them is very rare and is only specific to one lesser noble family, part of the lesser nobility, and that's Eriksson with a K and one S. Yeah, they're actually a cousin of the Wallenberg family, so they're very prominent, very powerful family. The other spelling, with double S, yeah, K and double S, is just like Smith over it. Yeah, it's common as mud. So when I started tracking back, and I started noticing more and more Erikssons with this one S, it dawned on me that I was looking at something a bit sort of, a bit meaty. See, her grandfather, Carl Fransford, was a it was the head of the American Swedish Vikings Association, which is like a Masonic, sort of Swedish Masonic order that's very sort of specific to Swedes, yeah, in America. He was also knighted by King Gustav of Sweden for US-Swedish relations. Never said what, just US-Swedish relations. Now, I've mentioned this before with chivalrous orders. Whenever you are knighted, you have to join a chivalrous order, yeah? And there's plenty of them. In Sweden, there's about 8. A few of them are civilian, but 1 or 2 are reserved for royalty and high nobility, and nobility, yeah, royal nobility. One of them is the Order of Vasa, which is it's a royal order that spans not just Sweden, but also it has its own chapter in Norway, in Finland, it did have one in Germany before the nobility was abolished. Switzerland, France. It's basically a European sort of order, royal order, for royal knights, not just normal ones. And the Order of the Pole Sword, the Order of the Sword, sorry, which is specific to Sweden. Those are their 2 sort of royal orders, yeah, they're noble orders. And her grandfather, Karl Franzler, was inducted into the Order of Vasa. Now, this is very unusual because if he was a civilian, this wouldn't happen. Which made me even more convinced that Olga was part of that Eriksson clan. On the 12th of September, that her surname was changed, had an S added to it, by a gentleman by the name of John Dale Kessel. Now, no matter what I did, I couldn't find anything on this guy. I couldn't find any connection between him and Charlie Kirk or Erika Kirk. It's a bit of a mystery. Why is this guy changing things? But you didn't just do it on Olga's page, you did it on all of her brothers. And half of the Eriksson family changed that, like, gradually over time, changed the name from being the unusual spelling to the more common. But he wasn't the only one, because not only was John Dale Kessel doing it, but also someone by the name of PJ that had even less details about them, and therefore far less connection. I'm saying. The last time it was updated, their ancestral line, was last Sunday, 19th of October, was when Nut Eriksson's, who's Olga's brother, his page and subsequent pages after were all changed. You should have been seeing what I'm talking about in the background. So I had to try and find some other way of proving what I'd seen, and unfortunately I can't find anything anywhere that actually will back up what I know I've seen for himself, and obviously I know when it's been changed. So unfortunately that Erika Kirk video is going to have to be I'm going to have to cancel it. one good thing that's come. One other thing that's come out of this, though. One of my good friends on Telegram, Michelle, lovely Irish woman, she's a very dear friend. She managed to find something out about Mr. Kessel. Turns out he used to work for Disney. His Facebook page hasn't been active for at least 2 years, 2 or 3 years.